suit.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding.
I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Corbin's.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
You know, that news intro is actually very topical for some of the stuff we are talking about today. I also just regret not using that intro for the one episode of news that we did where we did talk about, you know, Will Smith potentially being a Neo in a Matrix reboot, because you've got all the pieces right there in the intro. I'm like, it's all right there. But anyway, thank you, Antonio. Hit the like button if you guys are watching. Well, you know what? We're gonna start off by talking about the MCU. You saw Robert Downey Jr. on the screen there in the intro, and like I said, very topical. So let's get that, you know, started here with the Fantastic Four movie, the new Fantastic Four, the first steps. You know, FFFS, right? Fantastic Four, for yes, that's the correct amount of F's.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
You know, or for F and F's sake. But anyway. Eben Moss-Bachrach, who's playing the Thing in the Fantastic Four, was recently on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was asked about, well, you know, can you tell us anything that you can, you know, that wouldn't get you in trouble, which probably everything he wants to say would get him in trouble, about the filming process of the Fantastic Four. Specifically, Jimmy Kimmel was like, hey, there's been rumors. Have you been, like, filming with Robert Downey Jr. at all? And to that, he was like, yeah, you know, we basically live together now, which is complete sarcasm. But the fact that he wasn't like, oh, no, he wasn't on the movie, he kind of like sidestepped the question entirely. I wanted to get your opinion on this, Liz. Do you think Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is actually part of the same continuity, the same universe or timeline as Fantastic Four? Yeah, like, and why do you think that?
Because it's Marvel, and they make it all connect. Because again, we're talking about multiverse. We're getting into variants now. We're trying to connect everybody. Now they're talking more about connecting elementals into everything and getting back to that storyline. So I don't necessarily see him showing up in the film itself. I expect he will show up in the end credit scene, possibly, but he's going to be in it. For sure. They have to connect the pieces, and what better way to hype up the upcoming Avengers movie, which they're already talking about ad nauseum, than to make sure that it makes some sort of appearance in this film. It's totally happening.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Like, there were some more details that came out of that interview. So there's a quick summary here that Culture Crave put together. So I'll just read it out quickly, and then we could talk about it. He also talked about, Eben, Moss-Bachrach talked about the fact that they film the scenes for the Things that, iconic line is clobbering time. So we're going to get that, which quite frankly, I think they tried to sidestep a little too hard in the, fan force stick.
They tried to add it back in. Like, it was his brother's fucking thing after he, like,
it's just like, stop overthinking the shit out of him. Just
and then he's going to use
it
to fucking, as a way of enforcement. It's like,
they did the Hulk smash line perfectly in Avengers, so why not? There's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do these things, and
or you can just do things like
I just think in a world where Hulk smash exists or Avengers assemble, like all that stuff is in a movie, you do not need to have lines like when you take on great responsibility, great power will come, or stuff, just don't overthink it. People know what they're looking for. It's going to get a reaction. Just give it to them and embrace the comic book.
Yeah, actually respect your fans. That's crazy.
Yes. I mean, yes.
John, it's just like, that's why I hope, in like future movies when you have like maybe more ridiculous costumes, because I know like a lot of people were kind of shitting on Joseph Quinn's like kind of woolly sweater kind of look when that video from Set. I liked it. I thought it was good. Like it was fine, but like it got like shit on entirely. Like, oh, what a downgrade from the fucking like Johnny Storm and Fantastic Four from the 2000s, which is like you can only go up from there. But like people were clowning on that, and it's just like I hope we get to a point where it's like if there's a silly costume, just use the silly costume. Like I love the Netflix shows, I do, but the ongoing middle finger to like the original like 70s costumes got a little fucking tiring after a while. Like I love Luke Cage. I thought that was a great show, but when he has like the bracelets, he has the loose fitting yellow shirt, I'm like, oh, that's great. And he's like, I look like a damn fool. I'm like, go fucking suck a dick, Marvel. Like, come on. I get it's like supposed to be all self-serious and shit, but like sometimes give us a little bit of the corn. I just want to see a little bit of the corn, the cheese. Is that too much to fucking ask, you dick bags? Anyway. I just
great.
like give me it's clobbering time. Give me I want to see like fucking the Thing in a thong like in the comics like that. I want to see that. That would be funny. That's cool. Like give us the silly shit. Fucking James Gunn is giving us a superpowered dog in 6 months. Like come on. I just want to see that level of silliness. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, one of the other things that he also mentioned is one of the other things that Evan mentioned was the fact that Andy Serkis helped out with the mocap filming.
Of course he did.
I mean, great, of course, but I'm like,
he's the one guy.
I don't understand. Why do you need someone to step in and do that? I don't understand this. Like, why can the actor not do that?
It's
so
a little
weird
funny because it seems like he's the default go-to across Hollywood.
He's the guy.
This.
Or Sean Gunn. It's either him or Sean Gunn. It's him or Sean Gunn. That's
he's the mocap guy.
And I don't get it.
He was probably stopping by on set, and they were like,
I never understood why Sean Gunn was doing Rocket. Bradley Cooper's an actor. He's voicing the character. Put him in the goddamn suit, cover him in dots. I don't understand why we need stand-ins for this shit. It's so weird to me. I love Andy Serkis. He's a wonderful man. I met him last year.
It's like the Virgin Bradley Cooper only doing the voice. Vin Diesel, the Chad Vin Diesel standing on stilts to make him seem like more in the character of Groot. Like I remember that shit. That was great.
I do, yeah. Well, I mean, he said he was very generous. I get it. I mean, for all we know, is like Andy Serkis
who doesn't
stopped by
like a
on
paycheck?
set.
I mean, I just don't understand why we have to go to someone outside to do this.
I get it, but I'm like,
helped.
let's not.
I don't think he actually was on set. I think he was like maybe a consultant or something.
Either that, or like he was like he happened to be visiting the set, and they were like, we're working on mocapping some elements.
You were in Venom, right? You directed that shit. Get over here.
And then he was like, oh yeah, you should probably do it that way, and maybe you should like do things this way, because not only has he done a lot of like mocap himself, he's actually directed. I think he directed. Well, yes, he directed one of the Venom movies, and then he's directed other projects now which has involved essentially some mocap work. So Andy Serkis is the Hollywood go-to. He's the expert for mocap.
Yeah, Andy Serkis is
probably just swung
the digital
by set and,
creature guy. Doug Jones is the practical. Creature guy. That's what it is. Like that's
exactly
the two of them.
I just think it's.
Look, I'm okay with it. Like, it's probably uncredited work.
I mean, I still hate Evan Moss Baccarat because he's a fucking asshole. But like outside of that, like,
but look,
see, we need to talk. We need to talk on the side, John, because you have all these opinions about these people, and I'm like, where are you getting this information?
Because he's a dickbag. That's why. Because he was like, right when he got cast for the Thing, he was like, oh, practical effects are shitty and dated. Only CGI effects are good. And I'm like, suck a dick. I fucking hate you.
I mean, he's a millennial, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's a fucking dipshit. It's like, that's why you fucking... Oh, look, guess who got the Golden Globe? Jeremy Allen White, not you. So eat a dick, cousin. All right. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, huh, sweet?
Okay.
Fucking shut the fuck up. So... That's
All
my
right then.
It's just like I fucking hate like, oh, practical effects are so dated. It's like, bro, have you seen the CG? Like once a modern Marvel movie comes out, the CGI is dated. Like, have you seen Marvels? That shit was. Have you seen the scene in anything in Thor: Love and Thunder? That shit looks dated 5 years when it got released. Like,
I mean, even Infinity War, some of the end scenes after the snap, it's bad. It was, and
it
I
was
can
bad.
admit that it was real
Like,
bad. They should have been ashamed of
It's been
themselves.
like I feel like we hit our peak in like mid to late 2000s, and now we've been just going because it's so easy to do that it's just been going downhill ever since. Like, again, I go back to like look at it's amazing how the Venom symbiote looks better in Spider-Man 3 than in any 3 of the Venom movies.
Yeah.
Or like look at Davy Jones in Dead Man's Chest or At World's End, and then like Javier Bardem in like Dead Man's Chest, or not Dead Man's,
Yeah.
Dead Man Tell No Tales, and it's just like,
Yeah.
how, huh? How the hell does this work? How do you get worse when shit is getting better?
Because they're just
How?
phoning it in. They're like, oh, the computer's got it. We're good. Like, okay.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? That's why like the Guardians movies are so refreshing because so much of that. I mean, some of it looks.
Yeah.
A little
So much of
dated,
that
but,
is
like,
Sean Gunn. Is
but
Well, no,
like, I
but look,
remember-
guys, this is
I know what you mean, though.
We often blame this on like the VFX artists because by
It's not
talking
their
about
fault.
it.
Not totally their
That's
fault.
what I'm saying. Because it's
They
the
don't go to
it's the
they can't go
implication.
to the bathroom.
It's not
So they're
no
like,
no
"All right,
because
fuck it,
what
I'll
it
phone it
says.
in."
Yeah, because when you criticize the VFX in a movie, naturally you're like, oh, because they did it wrong. No, the problem is like a lot of times they don't get enough time. They're doing late changes,
and all that
and
shit.
that's what and it's you know what one of the biggest things that doesn't get talked about with like bad VFX that people notice is the stuff. It's art direction. Good art direction matters. This is the big thing with how VFX were done back. Like for example, the Davy Jones situation, right? That when they did that at the time, the rendering technology today, the way you can have digital CGI water interact with other elements, you can do way better today than you could have ever done in the past. But back then they knew the limitations, so they shot stuff in a way where they had just enough practical elements to kind of lean into the practical where they needed the help, and then they CGI'd the rest. Nowadays, what happens sometimes is they get lazy because they're like, we'll just CGI all of that. And then we'll just CGI all of that. The lazy attitude is just as bad as like the CGI we get out of it. So I think, and also a lot of times you don't get enough time. This is where I think you just mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example. Superman so far looks great for the exact same reason that James Gunn is giving his filmmakers the time, the VFX artists the time to get it right. And he's got a plan that he put in place and he's following through on it. He's not doing late changes and then putting, really tight deadlines on VFX artists to turn things around and produce quality at an amount of time that is quite frankly unreasonable. And that's something which we should see more of rather than like, let's rush things to meet, a release date, for example, which happens a lot more, with these bigger movies than you sometimes realize. I mean, and that's how we end up with those terrible, VFX sometimes. But as long as we are giving the VFX artists enough time, I think the technology today is amazing. James Cameron, man, he's the perfect example of this. He can take 9 years to make the next Avatar movie, and each time, like you're
About
like
the same time that Matt Reeves can write a script
of CGI. It's I mean clearly. You know what? Let's not go down that rabbit hole just yet.
I'm sorry, it was
But-
an easy joke to make. I'm sorry.
Look, one of the biggest things that Eben Moss Bacharach did talk about, or rather didn't talk about in that interview with Jimmy Kimmel, was that when he was basically asked, hey, tell us about Robert Downey Jr. on the set of Fantastic Four. And he basically refused to straight up address it. He sidestepped it and he was like, I've been through rigorous media training, pretty much saying, even if he was on set, I ain't telling you shit. So we've been speculating, of course, that RDJ's Doctor Doom does potentially appear in Fantastic Four First Steps. So, John, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that Robert Downey Jr.'s character has a significant role in this movie? Do you think he has a cameo in the movie? Or do you think he's just not in the movie at all, anywhere?
I think he'll be at the most, it'll be a cameo or a post-credit scene. Like, that's what I think. I don't think he's going to have a major role. I don't like. I know there was the rumor like, oh, it's going to be 15, 20. No, I don't think that at all. I think it's going to be like a post-credit scene. I think he'll maybe have a cameo. Maybe like you hear his voice. I don't think we're going to be getting a lot in the movie.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's exactly that's literally the rumor that Jimmy Kimmel uses to ask him the question in the interview, and ultimately, like, he kind of completely sidesteps it. We got Retro Edits in there saying hello, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Retro. It is nighttime for us, but good morning to you. TC24 in the chat saying that's because Disney went crazy with the volume, thinking they could microwave CGI. Well, exactly. I mean, I think the volume is another tool that you can use, and when you use it well, it will produce fantastic results, like the first Mandalorian season. But then, with Obi-Wan and the other more recent Star Wars shows,
and they're doing it all with the latest Star Wars show with
Yeah.
Jude Law. The name is escaping me, but
although
that
I've
was more
heard good
volume
things
as well.
about, that one.
I've heard nothing but good things, but I literally just heard an interview where he was saying yes, it's all volume, and it it is a game changer if used properly, for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, TC24 pointing out a perfect example of where I think CGI is a problem today. And I think Marvel is particularly bad with this stuff, because something like, I remember seeing this in Thor: Love and Thunder, there were parts of the movie where he was actually wearing a helmet, and then there were parts where it was clearly CGI. And you could see that they had tracked it onto his head, and it was not actually there. In fact, the same thing was true for some scenes with Natalie Portman's Thor, like where she was clearly wearing a CGI helmet. And the problem with that is those decisions, why are you not making those decisions when you're actually filming the movie? Why are those decisions being made in post-production? Sometimes what happens is they're going back and refilming things, and for continuity's sake, they have to change things up. But I'm like, why are you reshooting such significant parts of the film and reorganizing so many things that you have to go in and make these kind of stupid changes where clearly you don't have enough time to give a VFX artist or a team of VFX artists enough time to get it right, and then you end up with bad VFX like the floating head that's a Zoom call that looks way worse than any Zoom call I've been on, and I'm like, you had $150 million budget to get it right. But this is the kind of thing that Marvel has had trouble with in recent years.
$310 million for that movie.
Oh god, but look, crazy. Fantastic Four First Steps, I understand that they're doing a lot of it with CGI, but I do hope there's some hidden and oftentimes there are some hidden practical elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
And while the thing might be entirely animated, because when you look at the design, if they're going with truly that comic book kind of larger than life design, it's better to do it with CGI and it's going to look better. I do hope that for some of the other characters there's a little wherever possible they can use some practical effects, even though most of the powers of the Fantastic Four you can't really do that, but there's definitely going to still be a lot of
you
VFX
can. We saw the Roger
shots in
Corman version do it all practical, so.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to cross this over with Thor and Captain America and Iron Man, like, can you really, like, I'm just, it's you got to, like, at some, like, Marvel has a certain standard for what they're looking for. But you know what? Overall, this all sounds fantastic to me. The fact that we're going to get It's Clobbering Time. Andy Serkis helped out with the mocap. He's the man for the job. If there's anyone in Hollywood who knows how to do mocap, he does. So, and also, Evan Moss-Bachrach, he's like, I've been media trained. You will not get me to slip you an insider's note on this. I'm not Tom Holland. But with that in mind, of course, I did see this little thing here. This is from Daniel RPK, one of the scoopers we talk about a lot. Again, he's one of those people who gets things right often enough that you want to pay attention, but he also gets things wrong enough times that you want to look at this and be like, take it with a grain of salt. This isn't necessarily something that is actually true, or it might be outdated information. But nonetheless, he said that the writers of Avengers Doomsday, they're still working on the script and they have until March to finish it. I wanted to get your opinion on this, Liz. Do you think the fact that script isn't even done yet, is that something that could potentially be a problem? B, does that mean that RDJ's overall story arc hasn't really been figured out yet as Doctor Doom? And then C, does that imply that he's actually, is he not in Fantastic Four after all? Because if they don't even know how his story plays out all the way in Avengers Doomsday, then why would they put him in Fantastic Four? What do you think?
I don't care. Honestly, I hate. I'm so fucking sick and tired of, oh, the script's not done. That means it's a disaster. What it means is the script isn't done because they're making edits, or it's just a certain draft, or there's one thing they've got to tweak here, one thing they like. It could mean so many number of things. I'm so sick and tired of these vague ass articles trying to like signify that there's some major discord going on behind the scenes. Like, first of all, the movie's not coming out until, what did we say, 2026, 2027? Like,
Mhm.
who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Like, talk about something relevant that has to do with, what's going on tomorrow or next week. I'm so sick and tired of speculating about shit that's not coming out for years from now. Like, it's just, it's so dumb. It's not worth a conversation. But no, it's a script is a script is a script. You're going to have rewrites. You're going to have some changes. You're going to, maybe an actor dropped out. Maybe the timeline for when they wanted to shoot didn't work. So we'll use that time to retweak some other shit. There's any number of reasons as to why the script is not set in stone just yet. It's January. They have 2 full months to finalize it. Okay? Like, it's so stupid to me. Like, talk to me about it in April. If it was supposed to be done in March and it's not done by April, then we can have a conversation about it. Like, you guys are just all these people that just jump on these stupid things. Like, what a fucking waste of time. It really is.
I mean, I will say this though, the fact that the movie is set for a 2026 release, right? I think I forget what month. It might be like May 2026.
Yeah, it's usually May because they like to,
yeah,
reward me on my birthday with a Marvel film every year. It's great. Yeah, but again, okay, you've got 2 more months. Talk to me in 2 more months.
No, but just I'm just thinking of it like this way. If the script isn't even done and the movie releases in May 2026, that means that if the script is done by March, they will have like barely 14 months to go and film the whole thing, get it through post-production. And like one of you guys, I think the Watcher, was like, feel bad for the VFX artists for this. I'm like, I do too, because they'll probably film this thing for 4.5 months and then only give the VFX artists like 6 months to do the VFX for a movie of this scale.
I think people are putting way too much weight on the script. That you know where the movie's going, you know what the expectation is. They can definitely start some shit prior to the script being finalized and done and dusted. I'm sure they've been given some scenes here and there. They've been given some stuff to kind of think about, to work on, to start with the production. So I don't find any merit in talking about what ifs when you don't have the full story. I have no intention to speculate on the vaguest of fucking headlines when we're literally talking about maybe there's a paragraph that they're missing, or they're going to retweak one scene. What does unfinished fucking really mean? And it's just so ridiculous.
Well,
so I don't care. I really don't care. Again, talk to me in April. If April comes and it's not set in stone, then yeah, maybe we've got some problems.
By the way, Liz, just gonna say, I think your microphone is getting really wonky, so you might have to
the rage-induced sort of thing.
I think you
maybe I'm being too loud.
Yeah, you need try to like hop in and out, hop out and hop back into the studio. Maybe that will reset whatever's going on. But but I mean, in the meantime, John, like I mean, Liz isn't concerned, which is fair. But I'm like, that's just gonna compare it to, because Superman is the big DC project right now. James Gunn finished filming that project a good year plus out from when the movie was gonna come out, to give the movie enough time for post production. Now here is Marvel. Of course, they started filming Fantastic Four pretty much the same day that Superman wrapped, and it's releasing only 2 weeks after Superman, and it looks like now it's in post-production because they did wrap filming on Fantastic Four a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But clearly Marvel seems to not take nearly as much time for post-production on their movies. Now, sans, of course, like James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies did have a timeline that sort of follows closely to what he's doing with Superman, hence, it's his way of doing things. And he's kind of hinted that maybe Marvel isn't the best at it, and he has seen situations where we end up with an unfinished product in a movie theater. So he does not want that to be the case which is probably why he delayed the Batman Part 2, because Matt Reeves was like, oh, I'll finish the script in May, you'll start filming in August, we can make our date in October 2026. And he's like, no, we're gonna move it a year so we can get this thing right. Not that the first movie had any problems with VFX. I don't think anybody criticized the Batman for bad VFX, but still. But when you look at all of that, when you look at the timeline, I feel like for a movie that's Avengers Doomsday, I mean, forget the fact that it's Avengers Doomsday and you're bringing back all these old characters and you're gonna have a lot of new characters anyway, and you're building up to Secret Wars. It's an Avengers movie, period. The scale of this film, with the amount of different superpowered characters, the amount of like every other shot in this movie is gonna have some kind of VFX in it. Almost every shot in this movie will have some VFX. And some VFX will be good, in terms of well, not good, but like some VFX will be like relatively simple, straightforward. Some will be incredibly comprehensive, where you might have entire CGI characters in there. Do you really think, like, if the script isn't done yet? I mean, unless they've already mapped out a ton of this stuff, because I know Marvel sometimes previses entire action sequences ahead of time so that the VFX artists can get going on them early. But we know that Marvel is infamous for like doing a lot of late changes, and then things get moved around and VFX artists suffer for it. What are your thoughts on the fact that, hey, if the script is done in March of 2025 and the movie is set to come out in May of 2026, that for a movie of this scale, a movie that's going to potentially make money that is in the same neighborhood as the Avatar movies that James Gunn famously takes, or infamously, depending on how you see it, like as much as 9 or 10 years to make each one. Do you think that's enough time for Avengers, Doomsday to go through production and post-production?
That's a bit problematic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like, oh, they have 2 months. That's still a year and 3 months until a movie comes out. Doing an entire movie that is going to be visual effects heavy with a big ensemble cast, the movie I can guarantee, is going to look like garbage. This shit should have been done in 2024. Should have been done like by the end of 2024 at the latest. And then they should be starting production. Like Supergirl is starting production, and that's coming out a month later.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
And they haven't even finished the script yet for this movie. I'm just saying,
it's like, I just can't, like, outside of like the Snyder Bros, I can't see how anyone's thinking like, oh yeah, DC is gonna fucking crash and burn. It's just like, I just don't get it, because it's like Supergirl starting production, it's coming out a month later, and these motherfuckers allegedly have not finished a fucking script yet. Like, again, this isn't the first Iron Man. That movie is a living miracle in terms of shooting without a script, and yet it somehow was successful and started a cinematic universe. It was miraculous. Yeah. And ironically, he's not here. But that, that became the movie it was. But they're like, okay, let's do that for every movie. It's like, no, can you write a script, spend a good amount of time on production, and then a good amount of time on post-production? Because James Gunn even said 2 years is like to really pre-production and post and doing all of that. 2-year commitment, and they're making it a year commitment. It's like, what?
I mean, look, like I said earlier, though, grain of salt is coming from Daniel RPK, who doesn't always get it right.
It's true,
right?
Like sometimes he'll get it right, but the information might be outdated.
Like John said, they started Iron Man without a completed script. I have a feeling that's what they're doing with this as well, because, like I said, I'm almost dead positive that they're going from Fantastic Four and then connecting it back to this film. So they've already started shooting Fantastic Four shit. They're probably incorporating some of the Doomsday stuff in with those shoots so that they can connect. So I don't care. I don't care. Again, check with me in April. If they don't have the script, then fine. We'll be alarmed, but I don't care.
I would be alarmed now. I would be alarmed now.
It's sort of, the comparison makes it seem worse than maybe what it is, because Marvel Studios does have a different way of doing things. Like I said, sometimes they will have a lot of these big, like, the whole big final action, fight sequence in Avengers Endgame, that was pre-visualized well before they started actually working on the script and everything for that, because they kind of build these movies. It's almost like the Mission Impossible movies in some ways, where they're built around action set pieces, and so the script is really just there to connect the dots. And given how Phase 4 and 5 have gone, it seems like maybe that is the way that they're doing things anyway. So why not do that with the Avengers movie as well? where they're not. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's like
feel as cohesive of a
and
story.
it's know what it is
Um,
gonna. They're not even gonna try, and people are gonna eat that shit up. That's what happened for Infinity War.
I
and
just
Endgame.
look, but at
So
the end of the
these are the
day,
greatest
I
movies
sure
ever, and
will.
they're like mid at best.
it's. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I want Avengers Doomsday to be a good movie. I want to enjoy it. I enjoyed Infinity War. I had a good time at Endgame. I don't think Endgame is the best Avengers movie. No way in hell it isn't. I think Infinity War is a lot better. I think the best Avengers movie is still the OG Avengers, and then Age of Ultron sort of gets better. It's like aging like fine wine in a way.
I'm gonna say Age of Ultron.
Um,
That's my favorite.
but like, having said that, I'm not here to like hate on Marvel or Avengers. I'm just saying
I
it's
am.
concerning when you
I
hear
was gonna
that
say,
it's gonna. It's well, John is, but I'm just saying it's
It's
concerning
just
when
a
you hear
nice
that.
dose of reality that these guys need from everybody from like sucking their dicks constantly. So
Well, again, the only dose of reality they're going to get is at the box office, right? So if it doesn't make the numbers, then sure, but it's
Yeah.
going to make the numbers, so they're just going to keep doing what they're doing.
Well, as far as dose of reality is concerned, on a slightly more grim note, there's just a terrible tragedy happening right now in California with the wildfires that are wiping away not just many homes, but also it's killed a few people now. I think the last I checked there were 2 confirmed dead, and it's just never a good thing when you see that, of course. And even though these houses that are being burned down are like they belong to celebrities who have plenty of money and multiple homes and stuff, and so you're like, do they really like John was saying before the show started, like, boo hoo. I get that, but still, if you were forced out of your home and told like to leave, and then you saw on the news that it burned down and everything, all the memories and everything that you hold dear was in there, you would still feel just as bad. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. So I do have sympathy for them in the sense that, hey, like in the headline it says it was so last minute that when they evacuated Malibu, and Mark Hamill's house is in the path of the fires. Jamie Lee Curtis's house as well. She might lose her home in the fire. It's a terrifying situation, as it would be for anybody. We have multiple people on our team. Allison, Catriona. I don't believe Catriona is currently in LA. So I checked with her. She's thankfully safe, I think, in Chicago. But we've got Angelina and Allison out in LA. So like and I'm sure you guys might know some friends and family out there as well. It's never a good thing when you hear that something like this is going on. I did want to bring this up because this news, of course, and the events going on right now are right smack dab in the middle of now what is award season. So of course, it's a big time of the year for Hollywood, and maybe not at the box office, but where the bigger movies start coming out more in springtime and summer months. But it's certainly a very active time of the season. But with these fires, it's just it's still, like I said, you would still feel for them, because it's you may not be able to relate to the the amount of money that they have in their bank account, but you can relate to the idea of, like, imagine if you lost your home in a wildfire, like how would you feel of all the valuables and the sentimentals that you had in there that just all of a sudden went up literally in smoke.
Right.
I mean, Liz, what are your thoughts on this? Again, just it's been a day full of just like more and more updates, and each time things seem to be more grim than the last.
Well, the latest numbers are 100,000 people were evacuated, so that's nothing to scoff at. And at the end of the day, like, yes, the majority of I wouldn't even say the majority, but yes, a good portion of the people there that are losing their homes are celebrities or people who are celebrity adjacent. But at the end of the day, they're human beings. So like, Mark Hamill, Jamie Lee Curtis, they've lived in those homes probably for 20 plus years. So you have to put it in perspective like that. Like, yes, they can afford to rebuild, but you're still talking about decades and lifetimes spent building up these homes, creating these places for their families, and not to mention all of their neighbors who are not actors, who are not famous, who are it's we hear from a handful of well-known names, but at the end of the day, it's human beings, it's lives, it's livelihoods, it's homes. So it definitely is tragic, and we see it year after year, especially in with the fire season, whatever you want to call it, wildfire season. We saw it in the north last year. We're seeing it now in the LA area. It's just a fact of life these days, unfortunately. I mean, we saw it here on the East Coast as well. So yeah, it's a shame. Again, I John and I were joking about it a little bit earlier too, like, oh no, my house, like, thank God I've got a place on the East Coast I can live, or a place in France that I can live. And it's true, they do. But
Yeah.
still, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people are being displaced by this, and it's
Yeah,
and,
I
you know,
feel bad for more so
yeah,
the people that are down there that don't have anywhere else to go, and
right. Because I
that,
mean,
as you were
you know,
saying,
yeah,
like,
we're talking LA. So LA, there's a bunch of writers, there's a bunch of, you know, ADs, there's a bunch of craft service people that all live in the same area that don't
remember,
make
we
that
got to
kind of
thank craft
money.
services.
100% thank craft services. But again, we're talking about people that are a part of the film industry and a part of that world that are not going to be able to recover. So, you know, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's still a shitty situation.
Mhm.
I personally, since they're pushing back the voting for the awards, for particularly for the Academy Awards, I almost kind of think they might actually push the Academy Awards back as well, because I think 2 days is a little optimistic. I think they need to, they're probably going to end up pushing it back even further while people are still trying to figure out what's going on and maybe recoup their losses, or, you know, come to terms with what they've lost. So we'll see what happens with this. It's going to be a very fluid story, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit because we are going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, it's just terrible to see something like this going on because, like you said, John, for all the big celebrities like, you know, Mark Hamill and Jamie Lee Curtis you see on the screen, there's you know thousands, if not, you know, hundreds of thousands of other, you know, professionals in Hollywood who do not have the ability to just go to another home, who have, you know, just the one home that is now in the line of fire, literally. But yeah, we hope, and you know, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody out there, that if you were being evacuated, that you made it out safely, and if you are still in the area, that, you know, you're taking all the precautions, and of course follow all the instructions that you get from the local government and the emergency services. They're there to try to help you, and we hope that you are staying safe while you are in LA. With that in mind, like I mentioned earlier, there are, you know, awards, not nominees and nominations. Awards are being given out. Of course, the Golden Globes were just this past weekend. Now we are on the road to the Oscars, and today, Liz, as you just mentioned, they officially opened up the voting to the Oscar nominations. So this isn't to you know, vote on who's gonna win each category. This
Right.
is to vote on the short list to then determine the nominees for each award category. So we are coming into the year now where, for the first time, I feel like in several years, we really don't have a front runner. I mean, we know that, of
Yeah.
course, like the DGA awards, and I think even at the Golden Globes, you have like movies like Wicked getting like 5 or 6 nominations, but it's not like, you know, like last year or the year before that, whenever the first Dune movie came out, where it had like 13 nominations, right? Like you always have like a movie or two that, or like Everything Everywhere All at Once, got like 8 or 9 different nominations. You just don't see a movie that's just dominating all the big categories this year. It's kind of spread across the board. So
Yeah. Well, because again, there's just so much content out there now.
yeah,
And now that we're also incorporating the streaming services, which I'm at a point now where I feel like we should have separate awards for that. We should have, gone into movie theater awards, and then we should have the streaming awards, because it's just getting too inundated.
yeah. Well, I
But
think to
yeah,
qualify
it's
for an Oscar, you do need a certain level, a certain amount of theater time,
viewership.
essentially.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you can't just be an exclusively streaming movie and qualify in the same category. That's why Netflix puts out some of their movies in like a LA and New York movie theater for a certain period of time, just to meet the minimum requirements. It's sort of
Yeah.
cheating the system a little bit, and they were raising the requirements in recent years. So I hope that they've gotten to a point where, you know, if Netflix is gonna go that far, then they actually just do a limited release for the movie at least. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, as you were saying, it is a busy. It's a busy year in the sense that there's just a lot of different good movies, but none of them truly standing out as the big, you know, go-to for, you know, all the big categories. And now with that said, of course, the Oscar nominations aren't the only ones that dropped today. In recent days and weeks, we have seen the you know, different categories shortlist be announced. Of course, we saw the docs shortlist be announced, and a few, you know, big name documentaries were missing, like the Elton John documentary and the Celine Dion, and then for us with DCU Daily, the Christopher Reeve documentary from DC Studios. They were all snubbed from the Oscar shortlist. So forget the nominees; they're not even on the shortlist. So to me, that obviously it's a little surprising, because you would expect at least one or two of them to be there. Like they're supported by, all of them are supported by big streaming services. Like of course Max is behind the Christopher Reeve story. John, what are your thoughts on this? Do you feel like there's a pattern
Bullshit.
here?
Bullshit. Fucking bullshit. But I do remember reading somewhere that they are eligible for Best Picture. So like, I don't know if like that's a thing. I don't know. I don't think that'll be the case. But I remember reading, like, I remember like seeing an article. Maybe it's bullshit. Maybe it's not. But like, oh, Christopher Reeve Superman story, or sorry, Superman Christopher Reeve story. And Joker Fola Edu are eligible for Best Picture. I'm like, I don't know how true that is. I hope it would be fucking hilarious to see Joker 2 get nominated, just to see everybody lose their collect. I mean, to be fair, Godfather Part 3 got nominated for Best Picture. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes the Oscars are a little bit much, but I think that would just be so funny. So fucking funny. But yeah, it's still bullshit. I mean, I understand. I'm sure there's some great like there's a great one that my buddy watched about like the schooling system in like a different countries. Like it was a really hard watch, very well done documentary. So I'm sure there's gonna be great documentaries that are gonna get limelight where they wouldn't have got. Like I kind of view it like this, like everything joking aside. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, was very, very lucky to get the limelight it did. Like DC Studios picking it up, it getting a limited release, it getting a national release, then going on a fancy streaming service that a lot of people have.
Right.
So Christopher Reeve's story got very, very lucky. I'm sure that the documentary movies that are going to get nominated didn't have that chance. They didn't get that chance and are only going to be known because they're nominated, and then people will watch them. So a lot of people have already seen Superman, and to be fair, Superman Christopher Reeve story doesn't need a little gold statue to know that it's a great film. There are so many great films out there that have never been nominated, that will never during its chance, but its legacy will be unmatched by, you know, with the amount of people that will praise it to no end about how like its stamp on pop culture and all that. Yeah. So we know that Superman and Christopher story is great. We don't need a little gold statue to tell us that. Would it have been nice, at least for a nomination? Sure. But I think there are other stories that are arguably more important that are going to get the limelight for a nomination that deserve it. Now, I'm not saying Christopher Reeve's impact on the world as, you know, his most popular character that he played, and then eventually his impact on disabled people aren't important. But I'm saying, like, it's important and we know that. But for most people, it was known. While these other stories that will get nominated might not have been as well known. Like it might have been like a kind of like oh my God, nobody knew this, so we're letting everybody know now. That kind of thing I'm kind of excited for in a documentary sense. So, you know, whatever is get nominated, I'm sure it's gonna be well deserved. I hope so. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of things that are snubbed and don't deserve it and all that, but my optimism is they will get what they deserve in terms of the nominations. Am I a little sad? Sure. I don't actually think it's bullshit. I'm just trying to be funny. I'm gonna be serious now. I'm gonna be serious. So I mean, I'm excited to see what will get nominated, and those stories I'm sure are gonna be great. So whether it's hard to watch or genuinely exciting to watch, whatever those stories are.
And you know what? Like, it's not just the Oscar shortlist, right? We talked about the award season. The Oscars are like the main event, but you have so many, like Golden Globes kicks things off, and then there's so many other awards that happen between then and the Oscars. Now, one of them, of course, is the SAG Awards. Now, the SAG Awards released their 2025 television and film nominations. So now that we have them out, Wicked and Shogun lead the respective categories, each with 5 nods. Is that a surprise to you, Liz, at all? The fact that Shogun, which a lot of people thought was unanimously the best show of the year, and Wicked, which a lot of people think was one of the best movies of the year, they're the ones leading the pack here in the SAG nominees.
No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Shogun's going to take everything just like it did with the Golden Globes. Wicked's not going to get anything. As beautiful and exciting and as beloved as it was, it's just not an awards winning type of film. And I can say that as, you know, I just saw The Last Showgirl tonight. Pamela Anderson may get nominated. She's not going to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain things you can kind of already tell ahead of time. So no, the noms aren't surprising to me. I'm surprised that Shogun got so few. Honestly, I would expect them to get even more, just based on all of the feedback that I've heard of the show since it first aired, and again, it doing so well at the Globes themselves. But that's what I'm gonna say is gonna happen. Is Shogun's gonna get the majority of their awards. Wicked's probably not gonna get anything at all. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, also, like, Margaret Qualley did not get nominated. She got snubbed essentially for The Substance, and she's been getting a lot of
I was a little
nominations
surprised by
elsewhere.
that,
So
honestly.
I
was
personally, I
surprising to
think
me.
Demi Moore gave a better performance than Margaret. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley was bad, but I think what Demi was doing was much more important and more of like
her
the
character
glue of
had
the movie.
not to I don't, for lack of a better term, her character had more substance. So
Yeah.
you know, I didn't know how else
Yeah.
to phrase that, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yeah, no pun intended. But yes. All
Yeah.
right. So now, in addition to that, of course, the DGA, and so the SAG, of course, is the Screen Actors Guild. The DGA is the Directors Guild of America. So this is where, like, you know, all the directors get to vote on their, best performances and awards of the year. We talked about it the other day that, of course, the Penguin has multiple nominations at the DGA Awards, and we, of course, have the Bear and Shogun in there as well. When you looked at this list of nominations for the DGA, where, I mean, every time I think about the DGA, it reminds me of how, you know, Ben Affleck won his, you know, Best Director award at the DGA Awards that year for Argo, and then somehow, you know, even though the movie was nominated for Best Film, he was snubbed from the Oscar for the Best Director. But, you know, it's interesting because the DGA, a lot of the same people who vote on the Oscars Best Director category, they're in the Academy, are the same people who were part of the DGA. So it didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, as far as the DGA Awards nominees for this past year goes, Shogun, the Bear, and the Penguin, they all lead with 3 nominations each. Does that surprise you guys? Because I know a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of the latest season of the Bear, but of course, Shogun and the Penguin were the 2 biggest shows of the year. So is there a surprise there? Do you feel like
Definitely
they should have
not for
gotten more
Shogun.
nominations?
I think the Penguin's kind of surprising again because it's like it's a comic book thing, it's a superhero thing, so it's a little surprising. But the Bear, yeah, people were left mixed on the latest season, but it still got enough it still got enough people where it was like, yeah, this was still good. It's been good. I feel like I'm one of the outliers that thought that the latest season wasn't that great, so that's not surprising to me that the Bear is getting, you know, nominated and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, you got the usual suspects, like, you know, you have Abbott Elementary, you've got, you know, Hacks, of course, the Bear, and, you know, getting nominated in the comedy category, which still doesn't, I don't get it. But anyway, Curb Your Enthusiasm, movies for television and limited series, of course, is where the Penguin lives. Disclaimer on Apple TV Plus, Alfonso Cuarón.
I heard Disclaimer was really fucking good.
Yeah, that same thing here. I mean, the Penguin has 3 nominations in the best, you know, in the movies for television and limited series category. So I'm like, it's got a pretty good chance of at least picking up something there. And then when you get into the variety talk show, I mean, this list is so long. We're not gonna get through all of it, but of course you've got all the late shows, the Real Time with Bill Maher. You've got Late Show with Stephen Colbert. You know, you got the Daily Show in there, which, of course, that show has taken quite a few turns in the last couple of years. Saturday Night Live, which, I mean, that SNL movie isn't really getting a ton of attention in the movie section, but of course SNL, the show itself, is. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, I hope that wins it. I actually really enjoyed the India elections episode. It was very informational. Some of the stuff I knew from before, just from a personal experience, but it was still very informational. And I think John Oliver is probably the most deserving, in my opinion. There, of course, the Oscars themselves get nominated in the variety show specials category. The roast of Tom Brady. I enjoyed watching that. Netflix is still coming off the high from that. Oh my God, when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were on the stage together, you could cut the tension, like a knife through butter. It was so good. So I can't believe. I mean, I don't know how much money they paid Bill Belichick to be there that night. The Tony Awards are in the list. Single lady. All right. So those were the DGA nominations. Now I did want to quickly go through a little more of just that was the television side, a little more on the movie side. There were a few surprises here because James Mangold, for A Complete Unknown, and Edward Berger, they got in, but Denis Villeneuve for the Dune, 2, and John M. Chu for Wicked got snubbed. Are you surprised that Denis Villeneuve and John M. Chu got snubbed at the DGA Awards? Like, how does that happen?
Seems like 2-part movies they don't like, whether it's the first part or the second part. Anything that was split into
that's
book
definitely
that was split into
commonality.
2 parts, they didn't like.
Yeah.
Maybe they have something against parts.
Nothing else makes sense, honestly, especially when you consider, the director for Barbie got nominated. So why wouldn't John M. Chu get, is the same kind of outlandish, fantastical, crazy set design, crazy direction. Like, that's a real surprise.
I'm just
considering
curious
how well it
Jacques Audiard has got nominated for Emilia Perez.
They point out here in the article.
But again, if you see that movie, John, you'll understand.
I know. I'm just joking.
Unbelievable.
I'm just going off of I'm very narrow. I've just seen all my friends watched it. They said it was like okay, very overrated, and then
I don't find it overrated at all. It's one of the most original stories I've seen in a long time.
I've seen some trans people having a bit of a problem with the film, but that's neither
and
here
that's
nor
and
there.
that's fine. No, and that's fine. But just talking about director, like
I'm sure they did a good job.
I would see
I'm
one
just
of
being
them
funny.
replace Sean Baker on that list. Like, I don't know that Sean Baker, that Nora's direction was anything.
Edward Berger definitely deserves it for Conclave.
Yes,
that was
100%.
an immaculately
100%
directed film. I haven't seen Brutalist yet, and I don't plan on seeing A Complete Unknown, but I know Conclave definitely deserves to be on there. And I'm saying that as someone who did not like All Quiet on the Western Front as much as other people did. So
I did not care for that at all. Absolutely.
I feel like it was a betrayal of the book, but that's what I think.
These are all first-time nominees in that category. That's like something they pointed out. It's like an interesting coincidence, I suppose, where none of these directors have been on that list.
How long has the DGA Awards been around? I've never really heard of it until now.
I think they mentioned this might be like the 50 something. We can find that out.
Yeah, I don't know that it's ever really been like broadcast or talked about.
Yeah, I guess so.
Before.
Like maybe they're just like really, hey.
No. Actually, okay, it's the 77th. I apologize.
Damn.
The 77th.
But again, I don't know that it's ever really been broadcast on a large scale.
No. Well, it's not really meant to be. I mean, these are like this. I think the SAG Awards do get No, you know what? I take that back. I do believe the DGA Awards get broadcast. I don't know if it's one of the big networks or if it's a cable network. I know that the SAG Awards do also have like a television,
Yeah, no, the SAG Awards get broadcast. Yeah.
I would watch a DGA Awards. I think that the reason why they maybe don't do it is because I don't think the average audience, will really know as much. It's a lot more inside baseball, the way the DGA works, especially the way the awards are formatted versus, what you see with SAG, especially because, it's SAG. I mean, like Screen Actors Guild, it's actors. Like people know the actors, but for half the movies you go to see in a movie theater, I know we know all the directors because we are talking about them all the time, but you go to the average person on the street who went to see A Complete Unknown and you say, James Mangold directed this. You know him, right? And they were like, no clue. Just, I like the movie.
But you're not voting on the name. You're voting on the direction of the film.
I know. I'm just saying, but I'm saying most people.
You would say, hey, should the director be nominated? They'll tell you yes or no, whether the name's got nothing to do with it at this point.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I think it makes sense that they don't broadcast the show. I think they do, I don't think it's on any of the big networks, but I think it's because the fact that it's more inside baseball for the average viewer than like the SAGs, where you can get into it. Like, all right, you're watching the SAG Awards, you're seeing your favorite actors, you're rooting for a movie, for the ensemble cast award and stuff like that. But with that said, of course, we started off this part of the news segment by talking about the wildfires in LA and how it's, many celebrities have lost their homes, and thousands of other, regular people like us also are in the line of fire who are being evacuated, and hopefully they are, being, taken to safety, or if they're, able to come back, hopefully in the future, and their houses are still there for them. I mean, certainly if you are evacuating, hopefully they're able to, take their, close their belongings and everything and sentimentals with them, because the way this thing is, it's like, every hour today, I was getting headlines about like, oh, a new fire started, like something else happened here, something else happened there. Yeah. I literally have friends and family and like people on our team at Oh So Curious who are out there. So wishing everybody out there the very, very best. But as a result of that, obviously changes have to happen to the schedule out in Hollywood for things like voting for the Oscars. So we started off talking about how, yes, today was the first day, or was the first day to vote on the Oscar nominations, taken from the short list of like dozens of movies and turn them into a list of like 5 to 10 for the different nominees. And that has a certain, limited period of time that people can do that within to submit their ballots. And that time period has now been extended. Essentially, it's been pushed to January 19th, and voting has been extended 2 days due to the LA fire. And Liz, you mentioned earlier that you probably see this going well beyond just the extension on voting for the nominations, that it might get all the way to the point where the Oscars themselves are sort of delayed. Of course, in the not too distant past, we had the COVID pandemic, which practically canceled the Oscars, I believe, the 1 year, and then the next year they were doing them without any audience in the venue. It didn't even do it at the traditional venue. So we have seen disruptions like that now, where the idea of the Oscars being delayed seems less novel than it would have like 5 or 6 years ago. But it's still, do you feel like this will cause the delays to kind of trickle down far enough that they will need to move the entire show?
I mean, again, as of today, as of time of recording, 100,000 people have been evacuated, but the fires are not contained. Right. So they're going to continue to spread. They're probably going to be evacuating more people. There's going to be a major recovery effort once those fires are contained. So I can only see them. I mean, they're being proactive now, and that's great, and they're giving people time. But I really don't expect things to run at the timeline that they were hoping they would, just because life happens. So I would think realistically, especially if they come back and they say, oh, we're going to push the nominations back further. I think if you see that, then it's more than likely they're going to push the awards show back as well. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, a few steps here, because, of course, if the nominations get pushed by a couple of days, I think that's still manageable. But like you said, the fire's not contained, so if it continues to cause more delays, then yes, eventually that will probably end up trickling down to the award show needing to be moved as well. So, of course, the safety of the people out in LA is what matters first and foremost. Award shows can happen at a later time in the year. You can vote on things later in the year. If as long as you're around and you're healthy and safe, that's what matters first and foremost. So we're again wishing the very best to anybody who's out there in the LA region, especially if you're affected by the evacuation orders. Please follow the directions from the emergency personnel and your local government officials, so that way what the best course of action for you is, depending on where you are located. Now, with that said, that will bring to close the news section. But of course, as we have been doing in recent times, we still have other news to talk about. We're just going to do it in quick hit style. So I'm going to hit the music, and we're going to get the ball rolling on this, shall we? So welcome on into Quick Hits. Exactly like John said. So first topic on Quick Hits. Tom Holland is set to star in John Grisham's legal thriller, The Partner, for Universal. Thoughts?
Great. Cool. I hope it's good like Devil All the Time and not shitty like Cherry.
Proud Make that money, Tom. Go, Tom.
Nice. All right. Okay. Well, moving on. So, Ghost of Tsushima. We talked about this the other day. But you know, the fact that it's happening over at Sony is going to be on Crunchyroll. But there was some news today that I came across, and it said that this anime is being made by Kamikaze Douga, and they are the ones who created the Star Wars Visions episode, The Duel, which everybody loved, and it's releasing in 2027. Thoughts?
That's exciting for the anime. I don't give a flying fuck about Star Wars, but way to go, Kamikaze Douga, getting that money, and I hope you create a good IP for the fans of Ghost of Tsushima, because it's a good one. So, very exciting.
I know nothing about any of this, so good luck, gang.
Cool. Well, I think, Liz, you know a little bit about this because it's your favorite actor, or one of your favorite actors, Joe Manganiello. He's still processing how Deal or No Deal Island will end, and he said what happened is impossible. People were losing their minds.
Yep.
Does that make you any more interested in watching Deal or No Deal Island?
Yes. This stupid article has now made me desire to see this stupid show. So now I have to go see the first season to understand what the hell it's all about. And now I got to watch the second season. Thanks, Joe.
I don't give a flying fuck about Deal or No Deal, even if it's hosted by Deathstroke. Because, you know, if I want to watch Joe Manganiello, I'll watch something else. Maybe Magic Mike. Probably not.
Watch
I'm
True
not
Blood
watching
again.
this shit.
True Blood's
I'm
good.
not watching True Blood, so...
Okay.
All right. Well, moving right along. Carry On. Speaking of moving it right along, Carry On enters Netflix's top 5 most viewed movies of all time, and the director Jean Collet-Serra says that there's no talks yet for a sequel. I actually watched this movie a few days ago for my birthday weekend, and I fell asleep once. Maybe it was because I'm tired, maybe because the movie was a little slow. It does pick up, and then, you know, the third act is very much like the 90s Bruce Willis Die Hard logic. So it's a movie that probably would have been a hit if it was in the theaters in the 90s, but I think for 2025, it's perfectly fine on Netflix, and maybe they can do a sequel. What do you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Are you excited to see it?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I love Jason Bateman. A dream of mine is to one day meet him and have him call me pal. So I'm excited about it. I don't care what Fiona says, even though I love you, girl, but you and I never agree on these things. So can't wait to catch it.
I have no intention of ever watching this movie, but Jean Collet-Serra is a very good action director. I do like Taron Egerton and Jason Bateman. I don't really give a flying fuck about this movie because it looks like Die Hard 2, but worse. So, oopsie daisy. If it gets a sequel, cool. I'm not watching that either. Awesome.
Nice. You know what? Speaking of movies and streaming, there's a TV series. Holes is getting picked up to series, basically picked up to pilot by Disney Plus. So, have you heard of Holes? Is this something that interests you? The first time I heard about it was the headline, and I was like, "Looks interesting. Let's talk about it." What do you guys think?
This is really? This is totally your generation. I'm shocked.
No,
Holes,
I never came across
the
it.
The movie is Kino Cinema. This will probably be dog shit, so I'm not gonna watch it.
I never read the book. I never saw the film. It wasn't my generation, but good for them. I hope it's great. I
reread the book
amazing.
and I rewatched the movie recently for a video on my channel, and both are still amazing to this day. It doesn't need a remake, and I don't really care. It's also not a book that warrants a TV series. It's not Dune. It's not The Shining. I don't know why.
It does make me want to watch the film, though. I will see the film finally.
Out of all the things that should be getting a TV show remake, it should be it. Have you seen the size of that thing? That should be like 3 seasons tops. But you know, whatever.
You know,
I'm not gonna watch it.
To the unsuspecting audience out there, they might be getting a remake of The Dark Knight, or are they? Because Armie Hammer is now set to lead a movie called The Dark Knight, directed by Uwe Boll. It's a vigilante thriller where a vigilante is fighting crime, except it's not Batman and it's not associated with DC. What do you think about Armie Hammer playing a Dark Knight? In The Dark Knight?
I thought we canceled him, so I don't care.
Also not gonna watch because Uwe Boll is arguably the worst director who has ever made a film ever, and Armie Hammer.
What has he made, John?
Some of the worst video game adaptations ever.
Okay.
Like Blood Rain, Postal, Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, Rampage. any of these ringing a bell? Well, that's a good reason if they're not. And Army Hammer is not the one with Dwayne Johnson, different Rampage. Anyway,
Okay.
but yeah, Army Hammer, he can go eat his people in his own time. I'm not watching this shit.
He's going to be fighting an army of criminals, hammering them till they're dead, and then eating them for scraps. That's probably what's going to be on the poster. But until then, we can look forward to Alan Ritson, another one of the favorites for Lizz. Alan Ritson is going undercover and finding himself in some big trouble in the new trailer for Reacher Season 3. Lizz, I don't know if you've seen Reacher Season 1 and 2, but you certainly saw the new trailer. And Alan Ritson is one of your favorite actors. What did you think?
One of my favorites. The trailer looks great, and I might start watching the show if I didn't have 500 other things to watch. But I love you, Alan, and I want you to be Batman one day, and I'd also like you to come to Comic-Con. I will pay any amount of money, sir.
John?
I watched the first 2 seasons with my dad. I was gonna watch season 3 anyway. I'm glad that it's not mainly about the special ops stuff, because I didn't really like that with season 2. So I just like the idea of Jack Reacher being the modern man with no name and just going into town, finding something to, deal with, and then he deals with it. I like that. This goes more along those lines, but it still has like the official kind of, oh, we have to bring in government shit. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but I like what I saw. I like bigger guy. I liked, we saw Alan Ritson with his shirt off, so that's pretty good.
Sure did, John.
But this looks great. This I'm excited. I like, even though I don't want Alan Ritson for Batman, I think he's great as Jack Reacher. So good for him. I would fuck Josh Allen, but Haley Steinfeld has that covered.
And good for her.
Cool.
Good for her.
And you know what? We're gonna wrap up quick hits.
Anyway,
we're gonna wrap up quick hits with the celebrating very quickly here. Then what would have been the 90th birthday of the king of rock and roll, Mr. Elvis Presley himself. Any of these movies of his? Have you guys seen them? Jailhouse Rock,
I have not
Speedway?
seen a single movie of his, but I listened to a lot of his music, and he's still the king for a reason. So even though he died on a toilet seat, but
sure did.
4
pounds compacted in his intestine. What are you gonna do? Gang, balanced diet, very important in life. I've also never seen any of his films, but I do love his music.
Peanut butter banana sandwiches, and they're pretty fire. Like,
were they fried though? They're supposed to be fried with bacon. But anyway,
I didn't have them with bacon, but I did have them fried, and I had topped with honey. Good stuff.
There you go. But again, gang, something to think about: the fact that Dick Van Dyke is still older than Elvis Presley would have been.
I don't understand.
That blows my mind.
That doesn't blow my mind. I always envisioned Dick Van Dyke as older than Elvis Presley.
I cannot compute that Elvis
surprising.
would have only been 90. Like, that's really.
I'm like, dude, Dick Van Dyke has been old as long as I've been alive. Like, that's, you know what I mean?
He's been our grandpa for a long, long time.
But you know what? Elvis Presley no longer with us, but it would have been his 90th birthday. And even though Dick Van Dyke is still around, he certainly was not the king of rock and roll that Elvis was. So happy birthday to Elvis. I think they're doing some kind of special.
Dick Van Dyke is the king of terrible Cockney accents.
But bless him, he tried.
He probably did a better job than Lin-Manuel Miranda in Mary Poppins Returns.
He certainly does a better job than Mark Wahlberg. This is the first time he's ever tried a damn accent.
No, dude, that fucking accent is so terrible. It's so bad. That first time I saw that trailer,
I can't wait to watch.
But watch the trailer again, because he's pretending he's faking an accent in it, and then his character goes back to him being from Boston. Because
I know exactly. It's like they probably started off the movie being like he's gonna commit to this.
He's the guy doing his other job. And you must be his job.
You must be the other guy. Yeah, exactly. But you know what happened in that movie? They started out filming and Mark Wahlberg committing to the idea of the accent. Then halfway through the movie, the director realized Mark Wahlberg can't do an accent. So he just decided to change up the story and be like, you know what? You were from Boston the whole time. That's how we're going to do this. Even though this is based on real life events, we're just going to go with it. Whatever. But anyway, that was, of course, the quick hits. Graceland, I believe, is doing something special for Elvis's birthday. So if you are a big fan of Elvis, maybe you can take part in that. But that brings to a close the quick hits.